And we are back once again with a team coach slash VOD review. This one will be for Neko Nyoctos, which is a team that I've coached at least once in the past. I think a couple times. I've at least interacted with them a decent amount. So this will be going over their Little Squid League run. Little Squid League, if you don't know, is a tournament for lower level teams in Splatoon. It has a lower skill cap than Low Ink, so if you're familiar with that tournament, it's sort of the upper echelons of Gamma bracket will probably be close to top 4 of Little Squid League. So that's sort of the skill level that we're working with. So Neko Nyoctos played in it and got first in Emerald bracket, but there's still a lot more that they're going to be doing to improve, so yeah, they're already MVC, so I'll just be joining them. If any of you are in the VOD, hi! Yeah. Hello, hello.
Hello. Oh, there we go, hello.
Hi. Okay, so
Good to see ya.
I'm going to screen share OBS to you and see if you can... Yeah, if you can see this decently, then we're doing something right.
Yep, looks good.
Okay. Now, I have not put in any of these replays, so that'll take me a little bit.
It's all
That's
good.
Okay. That was the longest part when we were doing it.
Yeah, I think that took up majority of that.
Yeah.
I kept making it quicker by like saying like each 4-letter segment as if it was a word that you had to pronounce. Uswa, Rimtui, K1, Ebki.
At least you weren't the one that had to type it out.
I know, oh my god, Rach, thank you for doing all that.
So much pressure.
You even
Really,
made
really,
it all
really.
nicely formatted. I really appreciate it. I love
Yeah,
it when
that was a
people nicely
huge
format it.
Originally, it wasn't as nicely formatted, and it like bothered me, irked me, so I fixed it.
Almost pressed not, and I was going to cry.
Nah. Yeah, nah, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
R680.
I don't really feel like doing the VOD review.
Maybe another time.
J8E. Then 3 numbers in a row for once, huh?
Woo!
And then I don't know if we're going to get to like Cephaloshock and then Blonded. We're just gonna do the ones that I've downloaded so far.
Okay.
So, okay, let's play this out. So Clams Yellowtail, I see that you have a Splatulese. The game plan for sort of getting advantage here is a crab tank on their like bridge. Okay, you have a splash shoe, so that's pretty helpful to have an advantage. It pretty much gives you free reign of most of their area. In neutral, you also want to be just painting up a lot. The roller is going to be really crucial here. Wait. White tenacity on the roller.
Rage, that's a you question.
Yeah, you're wearing it in this.
No, that's...
What?
Wait, no, I wasn't rolling.
Oh, Ash's roll.
Widow Yoshi.
Oh, Ash's roller. Oopsies, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I thought this was a different match, my bad.
Okay, okay. So it seems like something already happened when I was looking at that, but you'll probably be watching the VOD. Generally speaking, tenacity just does not scale as well as something like special charge up. And also for something like roller, you might get a bit more value out of something like a Subsaver for Curling Bomb or like Last Ditch Effort, or more probably like a Swim Speed, Ninja Squid, Maybe also something like quick respawn if you're feeling into that, or comeback. It just depends on what you want. There are more builds on Cindo.inc, but I think Tenacity is one of those few abilities that I really recommend against because it does not help as much as you think it does. Like,
Yeah, I never liked it.
even before I looked into like the actual stats, it seemed like it didn't do that much. And just, man, it does nothing. Okay, so one thing to notice here is all of you are backed up on bridge. You sort of let them take mid. There's a rapid up very far up front. Yeah, something could maybe be done about that. If like B was up front on left, maybe with Yoshi. Holding bridge doesn't do that much since you can take space up front essentially. And so here I see B recognizing that and trying to move in, but it's a bit too late because they have a lot of control of bridge here. And so the Dapple's able to sort of take advantage of that overextension and punish it. Does all that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess like at the very start of the game, it's like I'd honestly recommend like one person going bridge is fantastic. More than one person on bridge is limiting because like you're sort of all in the same place and it pigeonholes you to stay there. So like 3 people dropping down, so like maybe the junior and a shooter and the roller. By shooter I mean either Splash or Doolies. I know Doolies aren't a shooter, but they fill a similar role to like a shot. So Dapple moves up
Would
here.
you think for that, would you think maybe in this situation Splash would be best to be the one on the bridge? Just because I feel like I would probably be able to paint to get Crab first before the Splat Dualies anyway. And the Splat Dualies could maybe help skirmish for the roller.
If you want to paint for Crab at first, I might recommend painting a bit more of spawn going in. So like maybe
Okay.
going top, maybe going like far right and painting a little bit more of that. And then having a Crab for like bridge would be pretty good. I know some playstyles do encourage that, so having a special at start, especially if it's Crab tank, it's usually pretty good. So
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So here you're dropping down on right side. Notice that if they start trying to paint you out, like if the Dynamo or Rapid sees you, where can you back up? You have to jump out or you get splatted probably. I think especially as roller, this area is very limiting because if they see you here, a lot of your strength as roller is your ability to remain unseen and surprise them. But if you're sort of stuck in this position, then and another thing is when you look past this corner, you don't really see anyone immediately, and so you have to start looking for them by painting around, and that reveals your position very visibly as the Dapple sees you here. If you moved in from up front, then this might not have happened, or if you were like on top of bridge, sort of like where the dualies are now, I think. Yeah, so like right here, and then dropping down is usually pretty okay. As long as you have paint sort of behind you so you can back up afterwards. But one big thing with roller is like dropping down without paint generally only helps if you have a target in mind. And there you sort of drop down without really knowing where any of them were. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Are they wait, that rule is not in chat right now. Okay.
Yeah, they're not.
Okay. Who are the weapons?
Yeah.
Who are the weapons that are like here?
I'm a Splat Dualies.
Okay.
So that'd be.
Okay, so Splat Dualies and Splash are here. Everyone else will be watching the VOD.
Yeah,
Okay.
Splash.
Okay. If anyone has any like questions afterwards as well, or like feedback, you can always ping me in the server or DM me. Yeah, of course. Good pick. If you're going to try to pressure them like that, I don't know if like a dodge roll there is pretty committal, especially since they're going to be swimming right through. And holding bridge is pretty important. The last thing you want is to get picked off when looking at the top right of the screen right now. You're practically at crab. And so that means that like when you respawn, you'll have much less of your special, and it'll be much slower to go back in. It also means that you're sort of giving up bridge control instead of forcing the Dapple to have to climb up there to pick you off. So, especially since you were last alive, your teammates will be respawning. I know they went in with a power clam, but if they don't get any more clams here, then it's essentially just a free pity clam for all of you. So, yeah. And like you see there after you go down that like 3 people were able to just sort of move up because there was no one on bridge to pressure them really. Come on, okay. Really nice picks, by the way. Ruler, you sort of abandoned B here. You could have easily went in for a 2v1 there. Especially since Splash accidentally paints. Like, B's not even trying to paint here, and all of that is painted. The weapon's dumb like that, but
I was just missing.
No, you're okay. It happens in 1v1s that sometimes their mechanics just flop and you cannot finish it.
Yeah.
But, even if one person's mechanics flop, if it's a 2v1, then that doesn't really matter that much because they're painting around them, and then the ruler can move in with that. So just keep that in mind, since this Platonic took a long time for it to go down here, and I was honestly expecting it to pick off B here. Like, it seemed like it had chipped her out enough, but yeah, so. Note that you still have no paint on right side. I like you back up here and just try to get that paint. There's no real way to see mid here, so I'm just gonna use this and hope.
Blitz replay.
Yeah, actually overhead works well. Okay, one of your teammates went down, and then B is going in for a power clam with 7 clams. Or 6.
Yeah, I was way too far up there.
I want to see how that happened. Or like what led to that, so probably 4 minutes.
I think we were about to go in, and then I think because of the flank, it kind of took Rage and Deaths, like, they weren't able to follow up with me. So I think that was like a lack of like quick enough communication there.
I see.
If I remember.
So Ruler is going up on bridge. I think that's valid. Just stay aware of Dynamo. Dynamo is always like a weird weapon to see, because like everyone knows it's bad, so almost no one plays it. So the one time you see it, it's like a matchup check.
We actually saw it quite a lot in this tournament, like in our bracket. We saw it, like, many times, yeah.
Huh. Actually, yeah. I guess like if like a charger on the other side is known to not be consistent, then it could be better. So like in LSL, that's sort of the chargers probably won't be as consistent.
Yeah, didn't see as many chargers.
And then like comps are going to be crabless more often than not, so but yeah, I think roller positioning against any other weapon that would have been okay. Just man, roller can be or Dynamo can be unfortunate. So you go 1 down, but you have a crab up, so mid sort of in your favor, but there's probably not a safe way to push in here. The best thing to do here would probably be so the rapid's on right side, but if it peaks from right, then B can see it with crab, and then they'll have to back up or get splatted. So it's relatively safe right now to paint up right side. I see B tries to go in with that after the crab's finished, but honestly, after the crab is done, none of your teammates are up front, and so they're sort of able to just take that space back after the crab's done. So no one really took space there, and considering all of you have high number of clams, I think that's understandable. Because dying with a number like 5 or more is generally not recommended. Just because it takes a while to get them back up. I think. So be starting to aggressive rapid, and then sort of just goes into a different engagement entirely here, without quite seeing whether the rapid is still engaging with her. And yes, there is a flank at mid. I think the flank was just like awareness, not recognizing, oh, the dapple respawned and can drop down from there very quickly. And then y'all were kind of grouped up because the super jump. So that was really unfortunate. But I think really just the circumstances were in favor of just holding mid control. Especially since look at their special count. They have 3 of them.
Yeah.
So they're pushing it alone. Really good. Okay, Rage, both of those picks were really good. Just waiting for them to push up into you without paint and then punishing them for that. That was really good. And then, of course, punishing Reef Slider for being used at a sort of decent time. Because that's sort of just how Reef Slider does things at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see what happened here. Okay, I think trying to aggress bridge is I think a good idea. Dropping down for it like that, again, it's sort of like the same drop on right on Eel Tail. Unless you're like certain that no one's watching it, which there the rapid was, it's generally a little unsafe. But and also because you stopped looking at bridge, the stamp was able to sort of just go in after you.
Seems like a close call, like neither saw each other.
Yeah, but the stamp still saw Des and picked him off, so I think because the ruler wasn't there to like pick anyone off if they overextended, the stamp was able to succeed because of that. And then yeah, the stamp sort of just went behind and wins against Crab. Good pick overall though, against Zatanna. Recognize that you're still.
I was way too far up there.
What is it?
I just realized I was like so far up there, like all
Wait.
that was happening at our objective. I was like on the opposite
I didn't even see you. Oh my god.
I was way. I don't know what I was doing there.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing.
I'm gonna look. Okay. So you're on left side. You're on bridge. You get a pick. Okay. One thing to note here, if you get a pick like this, that's really good. You can get control of left or right here. I think getting control of bridge doesn't help that much because there's not that much paint you get here. And like, oh, another thing to note, you have Crab, and you're pushing up instead of using Crab. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you drop down.
Oh
no.
Something we noticed when we were looking at it.
Wait, what does it be?
I said I wish we still had the VOD of all our callouts, so I had a better idea of what was happening here. I had recorded everything and then it like didn't save, unfortunately. So we had lost all our callouts with it.
I'm sorry to hear, but
Yeah, it's alright.
Yeah, generally Crab's best when used as long range. It has some niche utility as like a baller adjacent, but for how strong the special is, that's like a very weak use of it, if that makes sense.
I think I remember what was happening. I think I was calling out to like super jump to me with the power clam. I think that's what I was doing. But even then, that probably wasn't a great. We wouldn't really be able to get much out of that, and it would just give them pity clam. So that wasn't really a good call either.
Yeah,
And I
because
should have,
like
stayed over by mid and got control of that for us to kind of regroup.
yeah, there are a couple of things that you need to look at for that. Then first, picks are making sure they're pushed away from basket for a safe power clam. They weren't really pushed back far enough. Like they were on their bridge, which is pretty far back, but it's not clam basket back. And then also you don't really have pain in mid even. Without pain in mid, you're not really getting clams a lot. And in order to deal with the 56 lead that they got, you need like 9 clams with the power.
Yeah.
So, because you all have been going down a lot, there hasn't been much consolidation of clams, I guess. So, like generally, Clam Blitz is a mode where you hold mid for a while, have it painted so when clams spawn, you can see them on the map and then get them. And then eventually push into them and then score. So there are 2 main phases with it because of that. So the apple is just rushing below.
I think Clam Blitz is the mode where, as a team, we generally have the most work to do for that game mode.
Mm-hmm. I see that Des and the roller are both staying pretty far back here on bridge. I think the roller, especially being on bridge, is a really weak position to be in here because there's a lot of paint on the left side that you could be using to sort of move around. The Dapple and the Splatana have all went in through bottom mid. And if the Dynamo decides suddenly, I'm going to start contesting bridge, you're a Splat Roller or you're a Splattershot Junior. Like, you can throw torpedoes at it from bottom or top. But, so like, that doesn't really change whether you're on bottom or top. But if you're on bottom, you can paint and move around. If you're on bridge, you're sort of stuck there. Or like, it's a lot more narrow, so... And then, like, the Splatana dropping there, you were forced to drop as well to deal with it. It might have just been better if you could wait for them to drop under them. Is usually good positioning for roller. So, 1 down on both sides. Ooh, unfortunate death there. Just mechanics. I think I'm seeing a lot of traits here that are sort of limiting the ability of getting clams in mid and like charging special. That's the main thing.
That clam I definitely made on accident. I was trying to have 7 and I think I accidentally repeated 1.
Yeah, they flanked again, and they keep flanking from bottom because it's safe for them to go bottom. It's safe for them to go bottom because you don't have anyone in bottom aggressing them or contesting that space.
Okay.
So like they're getting behind bridge, and you're able to deal with them because you're on bridge. But that's also splitting your focus, and I think that it's a lot harder for them to go in through mid if you have like 2 or 3 people down there looking at it. Because then you can paint over them pretty effectively. Yeah. That's why I'm on overhead. I love spectator mode.
It's bad camera.
Yeah. Yeah, so like this positioning. Ooh. In all other worlds, that was like really good positioning for the last few seconds. So like the roller being down here, you can pressure under bridge or like on left and right side and weave between them very quickly. The problem is you have power clam. On this comp, you probably want anything but the roller to take it. Probably the junior. You don't really want anyone to hold a power clam here. Like no one's a charger or splatling. But if anyone doesn't want to hoard it here, it's the roller. Everyone else can sort of deal with it. Because Crab is very long range, so it's effectively a backline. And then Junior can stay back with torpedoes, and it's generally not aggressing the main aggressor itself. So like, that was a good pick. That was a really good curling lob as well. I like the Crab here. Yeah, the Crab's why Des was able to get that pick. And they flank from under left. Unfortunate mechanics, but I do think that here they still don't really have the clams to make a push. Yeah, they don't have the clams to make a push, so you can honestly sort of ignore the Dapple and quickly go in, because it was a temporary 4v3. And if you got that pick, or if you got the pick, it would have been okay. But since you recently used Crab, if you got a trade, they have Tacticaler, so it's still sort of in their favor. And if they win like this, then they split your team even further, and then are able to flank back into mid. So, yeah, I'm seeing that just they're constantly flanking, and it's a combination of mechanics, so like not quite being able to finish out 1v1s, and sort of just positioning against like that was really good against the Splatana and Dynamo, by the way. Just giving them enough space so they go in without pain, and then punishing them for it. So, oh, that was unfortunate. Okay, so 2 are down. All of your paint has been alive for a couple of seconds, and Yoshi's been on right side as roller alone. There's a lot of paint that can be grabbed there, and I think that if you're able to get it just a bit faster, when you have opportunities like picking off the Dapple or the Splatana, they're going to come back quickly. So definitely make use of the time that you have to grab specials. This is a fantastic Crab. Wavebreaker is very far back because the Crab sort of pushes them out. It's in the same area as the Crab. So I think it would have been better a bit closer to Clam Basket. I'm surprised that you've gotten so many picks. That was... I think the main thing with that push is you didn't have enough clams. And the only person who had clams with 6 went down. So I think that's partly because when you've had sort of control of mid, it hasn't ever been painted fully in your color. There's always been one avenue where the opponent has at least a large like amount of it. So like right now it's on the left side from your perspective. So like under left here is very painted in the opponent's color. Sometimes it's been on the right side instead. I think that's also how they've gotten so many flanks.
Okay. Yeah,
because
we were struggling a lot with the Dapples.
Yeah, the Dapples or Splatana were going in a lot under mid. And if this area is painted in your color, then they have to paint that first. But because it's very rarely have both sides been painted in your color, they've always just went in the side that has been painted in theirs. And so they're able to go in undetected. So... And I think it sort of goes with like what happened at the start of the game. So many of you were standing back sort of on your bridge and around that area, and that gave most of mid to the opponent. So they could paint left, they could paint right, they could paint a little bit of bridge, and then they started getting a lot of avenues to take advantage of like sort of like an octobrush of just, oh, did you notice I was sharking in this random irrelevant corner? No, you're dead now. But if you paint those corners as you push up into mid, and like I guess just I'm seeing a lot of staying back on your side of the map and not that much of like I'll pull up an example if I can find it. So like here, unfortunate death. But Rage stayed there on left for a while and didn't paint up. So the apple sort of just stayed there for a while. And then backed up here. I know that you're 2 down, but they haven't really rushed in yet. The Splatana is just respawning. And they're still right side that's mostly painted in their color. Rage is still far back, even though B has respawned and is in mid, so.
I think Rage is getting into position to crab up here. Yeah.
I see. But yeah, so like positions like this, the Dapple had to paint first before going in. And so then you all know exactly where it is. So I think from then you could probably well, actually you're already 2 down, so. Yeah, this fight loss was partly mechanics, but another thing with it is it sort of abandoned the roller and mid, and so they were rushed by the rapid. Okay, then it's their push, but I think it might be easier to talk about from the perspective of someone. So right here, it's still trying to move up, but there's still paint on left and paint on right. Oh wait, this is that one play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
that very silly part.
Yeah, it's okay. But I guess like another thing to note is I almost never saw anyone trying to aggress the rapid on right side. Like there's this, but like you never actually tried painting or burst bombing it.
Yeah, I just left the ball in there.
Yeah.
And then I got chip damaged.
Yeah, and part of that chip was because the rapid was still there. Not aggressing is fine, but if you don't aggress, then the space space in front of it is unsafe. It's not back up as much as don't move forward.
Okay.
Unless you're actually trying to engage or take space. Because if you don't know where like you want to be taking a fight, then the opponent can potentially have a sharking member there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a big part of that was with Crab Tank being up, or with Wavebreaker, even to an extent with Bubbler, it lets you stay alive and pressure a larger area. And so the big thing that helps within this comp is with Crab Tank, you can pressure the Dynamo and Rapid in situations where you otherwise wouldn't be able to because of your range. And so it's partly like the crabs took a lot of space, but I almost never saw them getting picks. And at least being able to force the rapid on right side back would be really nice. So maybe using it sort of like where this rapid is right now, but from your perspective, if that makes sense. So like on
Yeah,
either
yeah.
on either side here, it could be good for like pressuring above. It's not as good as having it on their bridge, but you have 2 crabs, so it's because you have 2 crabs and not just one, you don't need to save one of them for that really good spot, because this is still a pretty good spot.
Okay.
Because you can sort of overlook the like from this perspective, the far like there's a sponge on the left that opponents can go to in disadvantage, and then there's the right side. The right side, crab doesn't really overlook that much. But it overlooks the top right side very well. And if you can get them to back up from there, then it can make your teammates being able to go in through mid, sort of like how their Dapple and Splatano were doing. It can make that a lot more safe.
Okay.
I think
I see.
I think the last thing is I think I want to see a bit more of like risks being taken by the roller player. Just because I'm seeing them play sort of like a Big Swig or Flingza, honestly. Sort of like staying back but not quite confident in your weapon's ability to one-shot, when that's one of your weapon's best strengths. And so I guess sometimes you will be going down when doing that, but that's also like roller's inherently going to play with more risks than something like a shooter weapon, just because it doesn't paint as much and it can pretty effectively shark. I think that's probably one of the pieces as well. Making sure that your position isn't being seen by the opponent. Sometimes you have to paint. It's a game about map control. You're going to be painting sometimes, so like your position being known at certain points is expected. But if they don't know where you are, then that can be very useful in a 1v1. So I guess that's yeah.
Oh, perfect. Ash is here. Ash, that was about
Yeah, I
you.
just realized Ash is here.
Oh, hello.
I just got here.
Hello.
That's all I did.
Nice.
Get a different headpiece other than tenacity, please.
I know. I haven't had time to make a new one for roller.
What do you use it for so far?
Well, obviously roller, but then I use it for bow and then also just backline. I have stuff to different switch, but I'm not that fond of last ditch effort roller.
I think.
Other than that, I have
What about a main of special charge up in that case?
yeah, I was gonna do that or possibly special saver, but yeah, special charge up. I was gonna go full on that.
I think special charge saver is not great for more than 2 subs of it. It's really good for 1
Yeah.
sub, but yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I think the main things were just getting a bit overwhelmed by like the 1v1 potential of Splatana and Dapple, and sort of getting panicked by it. So it's partly awareness as well. If they have a Dapple or Splatana, or especially both in this case, it's all the more important to have communications on it, so callouts.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where they are necessarily, then just making sure you stay at a range to poke at the enemy's paint that's still safe if the Dapple decides I'm going to rush you now. Okay. Next is
Flounder, the one that apparently we really struggled on.
Yeah, this one, it was, again, the Dapples player just flanked us to death. It was just something we struggled with a lot when we were watching the replay, was just like noticing how much, like, too much of our attention was being drawn away from zone and like splitting us up.
Yeah, that's one of the main things that flanking does. It splits attention. Especially when it's done at the same time that the rest of the team is aggressing. Um, yeah. So here, one thing to note is it takes y'all a lot more time to get into zone than it does them. Like there's Shot and Dapple are already in trench. Dapple's already aggressing top mid. I think if you're wanting to aggress top mid like that, or like trench especially, you see a lot of paint on their side from like they sort of go through this direction.
Okay.
I think someone taking this spot would be really helpful, just because it lets them
Right
like
to
it-
trench.
yeah, or like at the very least being in a position where you can like overlook trench. Because since they have it now, there's so many more walls that are possible to climb up and deal with the opponent.
Yeah.
So two of them are flanking right now. That means that in mid, it's a 3v2. Okay, good cap from that.
And then we forget about the Dapple.
I think you might have like... Did you see that two were flanking specifically? Because they flanked with someone else, and I think one thing that could have
Yeah.
happened is like you got that one and thought, okay, the flank's dead, but there were two flanks.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't think I was one of the ones that saw the flank because I was a little further up, I think. I can't remember, honestly.
Fair enough. Yeah, let's just keep watching from here. So Dapple was able to get two from that flank. Okay, I actually want to know what happened with the fight that B was taking here.
Too
So, like,
far up, as usual.
Not exactly. So like right here, you're wanting to keep space on right side so that they don't go in. You start getting paint here. Oh, that's partly just mechanics. I think
Yeah.
going for that initially was fine. The main thing is like you don't have as much paint here as you do behind you. And so if you back up, then if they stay there, then like they're still not on zone. So like they're not doing that much right now.
Okay.
And if you back up and they try to chase you, then well, they're moving into your ink. So you have the advantage there.
This map always makes me feel a little flustered when I play on it, and it's definitely like the one I have to really focus on improving at because it's definitely my biggest struggle. So the things you were telling me yesterday about like areas to focus on for play like the positions I generally play are like super helpful to keep in mind for next time for like tomorrow's practice, for instance.
Fair. I think especially for zones flounder, to an extent all modes in flounder, but especially zones, you don't really need to push that far out of mid. Like having the drops under right side painted can be nice.
Okay.
But top mid is such an oppressive spot. It is so hard to push into that really just holding top mid is sufficient for most, like, the timer is ticking down and it's in your favor. So the shot just goes in and is able to get a trade. That's unfortunate. You have a wave breaker up and one of them goes down. Okay, you use Tri-Strike for momentum. Forward. Everyone on the team goes back to deal with the flank. I think the main thing here is just like, yeah, separating tasks. So like, if someone says there's a flank, I get like the entire team going for it because like that's sort of, yeah, it's sort of your first instinct. If you see a flank, you're going to be the one to deal with it, especially in like ranked where no one else on your team is going to see it. But if they're that far back as well, you can have someone like the Squelchers just watching it while everyone else moves up.
Okay.
Because as it stands, like the Squelchers outranges it, it's able to fight it close up decently well, better than the stringer at least. And if you see it's moving up, you can back up to mid and say, look behind, they're coming. Yeah. Or like they're aggressing, something like that.
Okay, so probably there like for call outs, like calling out like who's taking that on, like who's addressing it, instead of everyone just like going to do something about it without like saying like, okay,
Yeah.
like I'm going, or that way like no one's left. That way we didn't all just leave mid like that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I called out that there was dapples there. At least.
I see.
We all just
Yeah, that's when everyone left.
Yeah, and I think the main thing with leaving there is B used Tri-Strike, and Des also used Wavebreaker to get pressure up
And now
front.
we lost that.
Yeah, you sort of gave up all of that pressure up front. Because
by the look of this now, it would have been a good time to push up on with it.
Yeah, because one thing to note here is like, yeah, you eventually got the dapple after like 7 seconds, but remember that's like 7 seconds that they wasted plus 5 seconds of respawn, but 7 seconds of 2 of your players' time, so essentially 14 seconds overall. So yeah. And then Des sort of just went in alone because everyone else was in the flank.
I think that's something to think about too, with like designating who to go after a flank in a situation like that. Because like me and Rage went after it, but that left Ash and Des on the front, like at the
and
zone
especially
pretty much. And it's like a tri-stringer and a junior shouldn't be by themselves against, you know, the rest of that team. Like at least me or like someone else should have been there, so that can like has more kill potential.
Essentially, yep. I think one other thing here about the Waybreaker Rage, you're using it now, but your team just is recovering from a 2-down situation. Waybreaker is really good if your team is going to be taking fights with it, but right now they're not really taking any fights because they're respawning. They can't. So just be aware of like where your team's likely to take fights and when, and try to use Waybreaker accordingly. I also saw one of them on Illtail being used around where the crab is. And that's sort of like what fights are going to be taken around the crab that the crab itself won't be able to deal with. So that's sort of the logic behind like, that's the main question to answer about like timing and positioning of Waybreaker. I think the position of it itself was decent. It's just like they were able to just move back and you didn't really take that much extra space with it because your team was respawning and just getting paint. The dapple flank again, and this is a lot better. Just make sure that you use your range as the squelcher against dapple. Yeah. Okay. One thing to note here is on the left side you have Des and I forget the tri-stringer's name. Oh my god. Ash. Okay, Ash. So you see Des and Ash on left taking one fight. And then you see B on the other side of the map taking another fight. Especially with the junior and tri-stringer, neither weapon can really like they don't really, even when paired up, they don't really win a fight.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
Especially against
a dapple.
Yeah. And then it was sort of just a 1v2 on right side with B. I honestly feel like maybe the junior with Bubbler might be more effective here just because Waybreaker isn't that strong here. But really,
Okay.
I think it's also like they're often flanking from taking trench, and the trench hasn't been painted that much, so I think it's just an important area to keep in mind on this stage.
I think our thought process with the double wave breaker here was that it would kind of, you know, prevent them from going up the walls as much. I think that was our thought process, but clearly, like, they're still flanking right.
Yeah, Waybreaker doesn't really prevent anyone from going up walls as much. Just because like it's on the wall for a split second, and then it's gone for like 2 or 3 seconds. So in the
Yeah.
time that it's like gone, you can swim up.
Okay.
I think double Waybreaker is very good in the sense that on flat maps they can sort of be chained. So you use one, and that forces them to back up a little bit, and then you use
Okay.
the other one up front, and then it makes them back up a little bit more.
Okay.
What
do you think about like for the bubble? What about like Splat Roller on this map?
I mean, rollers on this map are pretty good. I think
Okay.
backliners are probably, this is their weakest map. So I think roller over Tri-Stringer might have some potential here.
Because I'm thinking like maybe what if we did a comp more like swap Ash on Tri-Stringer for Ash's Splat Roller, and then what if Rage went Vanilla Dapples for like the beacons and Tacticooler?
I think the main thing
That
with
would be good.
Dapple plus roller is you don't have anything to like,
Right.
you don't have any range at that point, and
Yeah.
the main reason why like no range works with like Splash is in the situations you need range, you can crab.
Okay.
And I think having 2 weapons that flank, so roller and dapple, they sort of overlap each other's roles a bit too much.
Okay.
Because both of them sort of need paint, they don't want their position to be sewn. So yeah, I think this
Yeah,
comp
reason...
oh, go on.
So the reason I usually play 10 to tech on this one instead of Splash is just because I feel like again, like you said, like backline is kind of weak on this map. I feel like Crab isn't super helpful on this map compared to. I feel like I would have rather had the splat bombs from 10 to tech and like a little bit more range.
That's fair. I think yeah, this is definitely one of Crab's weaker maps. But that's weaker in the sense that it goes from something that's like pretty much you can run 3 splashes and win, to something where like you'll see 1, maybe 2 splashes here.
Okay.
Because crab is
So
still very
not
good
a bad
here.
choice.
Yeah, I think 1 crab is definitely like solid still, because there are a couple of places where it's pretty good. So top mid, the wall on left side is pretty good for going in as well, and then
Okay.
on right zone sort of if you want to lock them out.
Okay. So maybe then with roller the splat dualies.
That could work.
Okay.
Or even just like roller with squelchers. I think double wave break is pretty. I think it's still okay here. It's just because there's so much of an elevation difference. It is a bit harder to get in with it.
Okay. Maybe save it more for like when the other team is like trying to push into zones.
When they're pushing into zone, it can be pretty good, and also I guess just if you can have it on like the left side of zone, then it can go into the right side of zone. That's probably the best use case.
Okay.
Or like using it on
Gotcha.
sort of top mid to right zone to flush them out the rest of the way.
Okay.
Those are sort of the positionings for wave break that are probably the best here. At least for zones. But I think like it's a combination of sort of giving up space for the flanks and not being able to make the full use of specials. That's making it very hard for you all to push past the neutral state of the game.
Okay.
Because like right now, Ashe is still the furthest one up as a tri-stringer.
Yeah, I just saw Rage on the right there go towards that.
I see. And that's also the beauty of Trench, because that shot was on their zone like a second ago. And now they're suddenly on left zone from an off angle. I guess like to further illustrate that point. Their shot's like on top right now.
Okay.
And then they just are able to swim through here and then use this wall. So
Okay.
that's one of the best uses of like that wall for Trench is being able to just. This is a pretty unexpected spot, as you can tell. And so I guess like there are a lot of walls here that are important to be painted if you're like not wanting to get rushed or surprised. Yeah, just keep in mind like occasionally being able to paint the walls can be helpful.
Okay.
And trench control especially is very important here. Because it lets you take like their zone from more than just the angle of left zone, which is very forward. Like in front of them. I think one of the main other things with this comp is it's like squelchers are sort of a mix of aggressive and passive. Because you can its mobility lets it stay alive for a lot longer than it should. And it's a 4-shot pick. Or like 4-shot splat, so it takes a while relative to other dualies. Since its fire rate is relatively slow. It paints decently well also. I know some like JP squelchers use QR on it though, and play it much more aggressively. So it can have that role, is what I'm saying. But it's definitely not as aggressive as something like a frontline. Then you have a dually, or you have a junior and tri-stringer, both of which are very passive weapons. Junior can't win in 1v1s as well as something like a shot or splash. So it's essentially B having to decide, do I try to push in from top mid and then like no one else except for B can push through trench. I guess squelchers can, but it's probably not where they want to be because they have the range to look over the bridge. So B usually has to choose between, do I go to trench and abandon my team on left side who are generally passive weapons, or do I stay with them at the cost of not really being able to push in from an off angle? And so I think having something else that's a bit more aggressive here might be beneficial for that reason.
Okay. We were also, I know for this tournament we were pretty limited because it was just me, Ash, Rage, and Des who were available to play that day.
Right.
So we kind of and Des was also subbing in, so it was kind of like a thing where
Yeah, coordination
we
was limited.
Options.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But these are still really good things.
Your team's focused on different things right now. 2 of you are focused on the shot that's like barely on the screen right now on left wall. Rage is focused on mid. Not even like.
Okay.
I think focusing on neutralizing zone and then looking left might be decent, but overall make sure as a team for retakes, you're looking at around the same spot. Because if you aren't, then it's much easier and much more likely, frankly, to sort of get separated here. So.
Okay.
See, for instance, the wave break was used to try to get more space in on like mid and trench and left zone, but everyone else on the team was still focused on the shot on left. So I think it was a bit early because no one was able to capitalize on it. Like now, I think would be a good time for Waybreaker to come out. Also, one thing with this comp as well is with Tri-Strike, it's good to have teammate aggression to push up with it because the visibility is a very big thing with it. Like they can't see if you're sharking in the ink strike or not, or where you are out of it.
And we don't really have that aggression aside from me.
Yeah, and so it creates a bit of space, but no one's able to really capitalize off of it, and so it's limited. Oh, and another example of why trench is so important on this map, the Zemi's going to use it to aggress the Tri-Stringer. Like I said.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think one big thing on this map is on retakes, make sure that you get trench control. Like just the amount of times that the opponent is just using trench to get over and get an advantage, it's very on par for this map. And I guess I'm saying it because I've almost, I don't think once this game I've seen anyone go through trench from the Nekos. It sort of limits your options because they sort of have the entirety of trench painted, so they know you're going to be coming from left zone. You could also come from like the flank from dropping where B is onto like far left and then doing a flank around the balloon. That's a much longer flank. It can sometimes work. But again,
that's something that the Dapples on their team was doing though, and it was working.
Yeah, it is. But also, I think with their comp, one, they have a hero shot with the Dapple to sort of keep that forward aggression, and the Dynamo sort of pressures you from moving in without like any specials. So yeah, I think just with his comp, it's very it puts a lot of pressure on B to play perfectly and use the trench exactly when your team needs it. And yeah. Because the Dapple
I don't need that stress.
I guess I'm saying like, because if you're not in the right places help your team with defense as an aggro weapon, they can get picked off. But you also want to be aggressing at the right times in trench. So choosing when you're going to go there is very intricate with a comp like this.
Okay.
And so I think having multiple aggression or multiple aggressive weapons that can take fights and win them, that is, take fights and win them like 50-50 at least for solo, and then like a lot more if you have something like a torpedo with you.
Okay.
Because if you're pushing from trench, generally you want your teammates to also be on left zone, pushing to right zone. So yeah. That was mostly I can see why you tried.
Yeah.
I can see why you did it to pressure the bubble. I don't think it was bad. It's just you weren't really defended. You were sort of alone and in the minis range.
Yeah, more so the positioning too. If I had backed up over the grate more first and then popped it, that could have been a lot better. But I think that was kind of like a too fast of like a little panic, like, oh, they just bubbled, like I'm like, let me use it, and that was a little panic thinking, I feel like.
Because also they moved in front of the bubble. I wonder if a splat bomb could have picked them, or at least like damaged.
Yeah, that may have been a better choice.
Yeah, then the mini just gets 3 here, being able to move in after that. That's unfortunate. Then there's going to be a flank on right, so... Good pick on one of them, but... Yeah, Founder is probably a map that this team really appreciated seeing. Because from Eeltail, it's clear that they like flanks. And this map is all about the flanks.
Oh my god, it makes so much sense now. Their name is literally Hook, Line, Sinker. Oh my god, it makes sense. That's so funny.
Okay, you get a pick. B moves up without paint. Gets picked off. I think moving up, I can see why you want to move up. Just be a bit more patient with it and get paint.
Okay.
Because having a tri-strike for retake is also very important. So like, it's still sort of worth the couple of seconds that they might get to 25 or so on the counter. So the 2 down, good whale. The wave breaker. Look at where it stops. It stops on left zone. I can see the timing being good for it, but make sure that when like where it's being used, it has the potential to like still hit them. I guess. So like that's a much better position for it, for example, with the splatter shot being marked with it. Okay. This is a pretty good positioning. The bubble's out though. And then the flank on left.
Yep.
Yeah, I think... Having the flanks painted is so important. Because if they're not painted, then it's sort of unpredictable when they go in. And there you had a lot of control on right and left side, but just having like paint on their car park would have been... it could have prevented the shot from moving in as quickly. Additionally, painting up trench fully, making sure the walls are painted if you're in a clear advantage.
Okay. Yeah, because I think there we were trying to like push them back to take ramp and like keep things safer, but obviously the shot there was able to slip in before we were able to set that up.
Yeah. I think also, just as far as specials are concerned, making sure that you're able to push up with them, so wave break being used a bit more in a forward position. Then as far as Ink Strike is concerned, making sure that one of your teammates can move up with it, because that's the max value you can get out of it.
Okay.
If they're going off while you're pushing in, that's pretty okay. But if they're going off while like your roller's sharking through it, that's fantastic. Because it's not just you that's pushing up with it; it's a teammate as well. So. Yep.
This one's a knockout, but it's one that we definitely had to really fight for. What I liked about this one is that I think there were some really good plays that either could have been better or like that we want to see that like we're doing things kind of right there. What our good choices were. But there's only like fights that could have gone a lot better that we lost, and some fights that like we would barely come out on top of. But that definitely could have been better as well.
That's fair. One thing here, Rage being on this positioning on left side is, like climbing up for the grates is really slow in comparison to like just swimming in on left side. You notice that like you don't really have that much range, so you move forward, but it is a lot slower than like just swimming in a mid, and so that gives them a bit more space to work with at the very start of the game. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. 3 on right, that's pretty expected. That was a really good position from the ruler. Unfortunate trade. Okay, so fighting under left. I like the fallback for the ink strike, but let's see. So after the tri-strike, your teammates are on your dually teammate backed up on left side, and on right are still B and Des. There's not much paint in mid. And so if you go in at this point, then there are going to be 3 people looking at you. So you're able to get a pick there because your position wasn't known, but you get a trade right after. And so not much was really gotten from that. Especially in neutral at the start of the game. It's probably, I personally would say it's more important to not get picked off than it is to get a pick and trade. Just because like there's so much, well, and I guess because of that, it's like moving in without paint is sometimes for a ruler it's sometimes beneficial if you know exactly where opponents are respawning and they're staggered, for instance. But in this scenario, pretty much all of them are alive and somewhere. You don't have track of all of them, or if you did, then it's still like you're outnumbered. And so since they don't really have paint on right, they're pretty much all left. So yeah, I guess trading there doesn't really hurt your team because they also lose a crab, but it doesn't help them either because it's still, you only have 3 people alive, so any push would be limited unless you get a wipe. This is very forward positioning, probably too much so because we backed up. I think it might have been
There, I had called that I was going up to perch to crab, but I think that yeah, it was. I mean, we were already down a roller there, and I think it was like again that the 2 phase of like I'm calling to like get the crab, so like don't push up on it yet, kind of. You know, and then like me actually getting there and crabbing.
Yeah, I think sometimes like your side of spinner could be a good place to crab if it's down like this. Because it's still sort of overlooking, but it doesn't take nearly as much time to set up.
Okay.
Yeah. That could work. It would also just give you like, it would be a lot faster to help a teammate if they're like around there to just chuck a burst bomb or 2.
Okay.
Since one thing to note here is since you're 1 down, this crab isn't going to be doing much except just holding neutral. And now 2 down.
It was a little
yeah.
too late, and I should have kind of saved it.
Maybe. I mean, getting a pick, if you got a pick with crab, then it could have been worth it. So yeah, that pick was really good, and now they're 3 down. So I think
Okay.
it gave a lot of, crab gives a lot of control. And if you have a target in mind when you use it, or like a space that you want to take with it, like left side for instance, and your team takes it with you, then it can be really, really effective.
Okay.
I think I think something that might help overall is having an idea of what area of the map you're going to be taking when you use a special. So what I mean by that is, say you put a Waybreaker in mid. That means that you can go left side or right side on this map, or even snipe. So But with Waybreaker, generally they're going to be moving back, or trying to stay in the same place and jumping on left or right. If they're on snipe, there's too much of a level difference. So probably left or right you want to take with it. Then based on your teammate positioning and where you are when you popped it, you can say like, I'm waving, let's go right with this, or I'm waving to clear left. And so
Okay.
I think having knowledge of like where your teammates want to use specials to take space can be huge for actually taking that space so that you're all on the same page. I know also with Crab specifically, I've often used it to sort of hold a space alone while my teammates push in from an off angle. So say Scourge. If I use Crab on right side, generally I'm okay if I'm alone because I'm still a Crab. They're not able to aggress me that well. So my teammates can move in from left side and then push them into my Crab. And so then we do a pincer.
Okay. Oh, that's a good idea.
So there's sort of like
I like that.
there's sort of the idea of like a special can be used to hold an area so your teammates can push another area, or it can be used to help your teammates push into an area. And by teammates, I mean like you're included in part of that, so you're going to be helping them in some way with that. With
Okay.
Crab Tank, you're stuck in Crab. With Waybreaker, you have the object that you set down. With Bubbler, it's really like wherever you use it, it's probably going to be creating a lot of space around that area. But it can sometimes be useful for like holding areas that are otherwise unsafe. It's sort of like a better splash wall in that sense. So its better use cases are probably like if it's a fight you would otherwise lose, being able to get a lot more space if it's like you don't want a Crab to be overlooking you when you make this push, or there's a leader and I don't want it to look at me while I'm on tower, or I don't want it to look at the Rainmaker and get a shot, or at the clan basket, or even just in left side of mid while my teammates flush out right side. Bubbler can help you sort of do a similar thing to Crab of like holding an area alone or with one other person, while your teammates sort of use another special on a different part of the map to flush them out. I hope that's given a few ideas, but I think special coordination is definitely like it is the like it is such a deep topic because there is so much you can do with the special. And so many ways to like build on it as a team. So yeah.
Okay.
I really like
because I mean we've been like using specials and thinking like, okay, let's push on this now, but I don't think we've been thinking about it on that deeper level of like we have the special, let's push this specific area now and kind of way.
Yeah, because like one big thing with like for instance Flounder Heights, if you say I'm using a special let's push, if someone else says there's a flank behind us, deal with that, no one really knows like where we wanted to push with that and if that's still worth it. So everyone makes their own decision of like, do I deal with a flank or do I push generally? But if we know like they're moving out of our zone with the tri-strike, so that's a bit more important than the flank for me right now. Then it can let your teammates make a bit more of an informed decision.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as this positioning, I do like that you're wasting no time getting in a forward position. The main problem is just left side. Under left, where both B and is that Rage. Okay. I was like, it's not narrow. I think Ash is the ruler, so that's yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So like
I wish I was playing that day.
fair. But yeah, so if you drop behind yourself now, there's still mostly enemy ink. That's a bad sign. I think holding snipe is very important, and I like that you wasted no time getting there with a crab, especially. Just make sure you paint up the left side as well, and maybe having someone on right side. So Des is on right to help out the rulers, so that's pretty checked out. But the main thing with this crab is very good at long range. It suffers at short range. It's sort of like it goes even with things, and that's not better than what your main weapon can do. The reason why they were able to go up here and aggress you at short range is because you didn't have control of court before you crabbed. And the way that you usually get that is pushing through left side. Having control of snipe is really good here, but I think maybe crabbing at spinner or like even on tower is really good here to pressure top right. And it's a bit safer because you're at range from the opponent. You don't want like a Poyo Boyo gal coming in right in melee range with crab, because it's something that you have to watch out for, and you see that like Rage has to ball up now or they're going to get picked off. And so the crab's effectiveness has been limited. Also, because two of you went on snipe, it was a bit of a clustering situation, and so one of you got picked off from that. Overall, though, really good with getting the first checkpoint there. That's one of the hardest checkpoints to get in the game, especially for first checkpoints. So yeah, main thing is just make sure you have left side control on this map, because they can flanking on this map is very common on left side before checkpoint 1 is finished. Ayo?
Yeah, Ash like pulled through. That is not like Ash did that so many times this tournament, like clutches like that.
That
Yeah, Ash was just so insane.
that was impressive, yeah.
Thank you.
If only where you had the replay where Ash solo wiped out on Haggle. That one
Oh my
Haggle
God,
game.
yeah.
Ooh. I
No,
want to.
I think we do have that.
Oh, do we? I don't remember already.
We watched
we
it
do.
yesterday for sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
I want to comment on this crab for a little bit, if you're okay with that, Rage.
All right.
So you're in mid. I see that you're trying to get control on right side. The idea of wanting to get control on right is very good. It's definitely a good step. There's paint right in front of you on right side. There's paint in front of you on left side. It just so happens that a T-Tech is on left side. Technically bottom mid, but they're going to climb up left soon. So there are enemies to the left and right of you. And you're at a range where they can probably deal with you, or like pressure from multiple angles. So it has potential to like go south quickly for the crab. I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
Yes.
Okay, so in general, having like a teammate with you when you're crabbing is very helpful for situations like this, because one, they paint better than a crab if they're like a Splash or Junior, and so they can slow them down so that the crab can finish them off, or like be able to get chip damage with the crab that totals to 100 and they're splattered because of that. And also just, yeah, you have two angles to really work with here. Also, I know Ash just made that really good play to somehow like slow their momentum down to a halt. But you still don't really have control of mid just yet. And so having a crab at the cusp of where mid is their paint is a little forward. Having a crab on snipe would be really good here. It would pressure a similar area, or like on far right, because then left wouldn't be an issue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I think one last thing with it is on disadvantage, that is when the opponent is like, I'm not commentating. I don't need to explain what disadvantage is. So I'm so sorry. I have like two modes of like
No, you're good. You're
rambling about this game. So
It's all good.
Fair
on
enough.
on disadvantage, crab is very useful on snipe or on like left side. So like left before you drop down before like snipe happens. I think it's called perch. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Do you mean the grading or the floor?
Oh, hi. Sort of the
Hey.
floor next to the grating. But I think that's a pretty good place for crab just because it can
I know what you mean. Okay,
yeah,
now
it
I know
can
what you mean.
it can pretty much stop like enemies near the first checkpoint. It has about that range. So yeah, main thing is just this crab is decent, but yeah, the T-Tech comes in from left.
Explain yourself as little angles as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, the T-Tech comes in from left and forces you to back up with it. And backing up as crab is generally like a
It's
sign.
rough.
It's a sign that you probably used it too far up, or like you've used it when you're getting rushed by two or more people.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that Ruler went down there with B, but because of that, Des is a bit alone here. Doesn't have paint behind him and gets picked off. One big thing there is if you go two down, make sure that you have like paint around you to back up. Maybe even just like throw bombs and stay back. It's not worth losing your special over. Even if your weapon gets special in about 2.8 seconds. So I like the flank here with the ruler on right side. Best case scenario, it will split their attention between left and right. So they get the crab off. They get a pick on the roller, which is unfortunate. I think the reason they got the pick on the roller was like everyone else was a bit too like the timing was off essentially. So notice here B still hasn't dropped here to checkpoint. They're already in mid, Rage and Ash. So this is a 2v2, but you don't have paint around you. Because they don't have forward pressure, they're not looking in front of them. And so they can deal with a flank first. And so that's how they were able to pick Yoshi. Or Ash, sorry.
Yeah. And I think here as well, I wasn't paying attention to what specials they had. I think instead of dropping down where I am right now, I should have crabbed where Des is right there.
Yeah, that's sort of the
when I went on Great to crab, they just immediately threw Tri-Strike at me, and then like I just had to back up to a bad position for crab anyway.
Yeah, I think the main thing is like because they have Tri-Strike, like it's probably going to come out as soon as your crab comes out, honestly, wherever you are. But where Des is like that's the perch that I was talking about. That's a really good spot for crab.
Yeah.
I think another thing is like the main weapon Splash works pretty well in that situation. Better than crab because it works better with short range. While crab sort of would falter if the gal went behind you, for instance, which is very possible now.
Yeah.
Rage is still behind them, and this is sort of the positioning that I was talking about, because B is up front. Even though the crab was mistimed, B was up front, they had to deal with the crab, and they're focused on moving up. And so as that's happening, Rage is from the back, getting a pick. So I guess like
it's kind of like that pincer you were talking about earlier, if the timing was better.
Yep, essentially. So I guess that's the difference between like a flank at the same time that your teammates are moving in from another direction is a pincer. A flank when no one else is moving in but you is a feed from another angle. Mainly because if you're flanking and they don't know you're there, generally you won't have as much pain as the opponent in that spot. and so they're able to pick you off easier because they have space to move, you don't. And once they see you, that's the main way you're going to win 1v1s, is by surprising them. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Want to watch that a little bit more from. Okay.
I actually feel like Ash's initial flank might have actually threw them off. Actually,
I think both times that there's been a flank so far, it's been like, well, actually it
because
was
I was under the bridge and they probably thought it was only a singular person.
right. I mean, it looked like the curling bomb was just the rollers, so I agree with that. They didn't know that there was a second person there. But I think it also happened. I think Sturgeon is one of the few maps where I would say 2 people going on right side is decent. Generally flanks are done with 1 person, just because like you want as much forward momentum as possible. But the flank on Sturgeon is right side, and that's pretty much forward. Okay. Right in this position, Des has a bit of paint tri-strike in front of him, and the opponents are pushing up with Crab. I think getting a torpedo up is fair. This is a bit too forward. Moving up on left side. Also, the super jump here is just a bit too unsafe. It's not that much more time to swim in here, and losing special here and losing like 7 more seconds is pivotal. But yeah, so like moving in here means that you don't have any space and spawn to back up to. And so you have no space to back up. There's a bit too much paint around you, and they're able to track your movement, is the main way that you got picked off there. I really hate when that happens. When there's just a super jump that's like, okay, here are like 5 reasons why that's like not the best jump. And then they just get a quad out of it.
Somehow ends up working. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm crazy.
I mostly expect it from like Splatana, Wipers, and Tetras, where it's just like, did you mean to jump there, or was that an accident? Oh, your weapon does that. Neat. But yeah, really good flank there. I think that. Okay, good flank, but on tower you want to be painting up as well.
I think I might have been out of ink at the time.
I see.
If I remember.
I think one main thing to note here then is when you're on tower, this entire like column in the middle of the screen is green, like those circles going up. And the opponent sees that they are writing the tower in big bold font. And they also see the tower moving with the like green. In other words, they know very well that someone is on the tower. They might not know that it's Dooley specifically, but they know to shoot at tower generally, and someone will be around it. So because of that, it's like, unless you're able to get a push with it, staying on tower isn't the greatest thing. Because there's still a lot of control on left side that you have yet to get.
So it would be better to just hop on it, just to like have it moving in the other direction, and then like immediately getting off. So it's at like still at least resetting back to mid.
Yeah, generally. So like reset it to mid, but like you don't need to be on it, and just if you get like 2 or 3 down, you want to use that man advantage as fast as possible. So like going up and starting to paint in front of tower is generally the best plan of action, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Set up the area for like where the next fight is going to be, kind of.
Yeah.
Right.
Generally for like backlines, so like E-leader or Tri-Stringer or heavies, they can still set up on tower, because like what much does it change that they're on tower to set up? It's already sort of moving faster than their own weapon sets up, so like it's whatever. But especially for like mid-range weapons that can paint up, or like short-range weapons that paint but not far away enough from tower, there's a lot of value in like moving up and sort of ignoring tower for a bit, because you still need picks before you actually get a push that'll take lead. So might as well get the space while you have the chance when they're 2 down. I think I've gone on enough about that point, so let's just move on. Okay, Waybreaker's up on right side. That's going to displace him a bit on right. Everyone sort of stays in mid with it. And then they have a crab right after. So the Waybreak, I think it was a good timing. Positioning was pretty decent. But because no one moved up with it and there was no other special with it. Like the crab's just now coming out against the opposing crab. There wasn't really any contesting that went on with Waybreak. So even though it was done in a pretty decent position, there wasn't much value out of it because no one really pushed up with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is just gonna be a crab war.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Yeah. Honestly, like, it's one of the better uses of crab to just delete another crab. I hate that that's even a statement.
They were on perch like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One big thing to note here, behind y'all on right, look at all this paint.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's a lot of paint.
Not good.
Especially right now, Des just used Waybreak, so I understand being focused on looking forward, but there's a lot of special that can be gotten there for like continuing a snowball push. Wait. What? When was that? How long did that take? How long did that take? Okay, here's the Waybreaker. It finishes at 220. Okay, so it took about 20 seconds. I guess that's fair. I was like not aware that it was 20 seconds there. My bad.
It still feels, yeah, it feels like it came out really fast again.
Yeah. I think that crab was really good. Unfortunate that it went down. I think just mostly it's because it was on tower. And like, because you don't have control of their perch yet, like it's still pink even though you got a wipeout. Because you didn't have control of perch, they could drop on you, and that because they had control above you, that's usually where crab falters. Generally on this map, having like on right mid, if you crab can be really good in advantage to try to get control of their perch and start getting them off of it, so that tower can move a bit more safely through it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. This actually doesn't have to do with this, but is it okay if I stream your stream? Because Ray likes watching it.
Oh, I'm currently streaming.
Oh.
Hi,
Okay. I
Twitch.
didn't realize you were streaming the stream while also streaming, so okay.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
thought this was private. Didn't know. Okay.
I see. Yeah, I only I communicated with I think I communicated with B that like I was
Yes.
doing something with Twitch so that y'all could watch the VOD after it, because not everyone could watch it. I
Yes.
apologize that
I
wasn't
think I
communicated with
said
everyone.
that. Yeah, I think I only told like Rage and Nero when they were in here. I don't think I typed it out in the chat. My bad.
Okay. Sorry about that lack of
Wait.
communication.
Would the crab be good to in this scenario? Like, move it back in like a couple seconds.
Yep.
Like. Would the crab be good to use in like in mid or
Like right here?
either
Or-
on mid or like where the tower is? Because I feel like mid would probably be a good place to use it, but I don't know because
So right here,
yeah, around that.
I guess like where Rage is where I would recommend over mid, because it's a bit more forward. If you want to use it to like get control of court, then Crab could be useful there, or like on left side of mid before you push in. But like hold on. Sort of where the tower is now is a pretty good Crab spot if you want to get control of their perch, just because it pretty much reaches there, and it's long enough range that the elevation difference is so minute that it doesn't really matter here.
Thank you.
Oh, I see what happened. So B immediately got Crab as she was trying to fight up front, and
Yeah, I
yeah.
used that, I believe.
Yeah, it happens. That was also a panic one now that I'm roasting. But yeah, this positioning with Crab is a bit unconventional because like you sort of have it there without having control of their perch. But it works. Like because no one's near it, we're able to just get a lot of contesting with a roller's bubble. Sort of, yeah.
Okay, I was very proud of what I did at this end here when I came back.
Grab on left side.
Yeah, I just ran as far up as I could, grabbed when they all respawned so that they saw me, and then I saw them all immediately start to go after me, so I was like, okay, I'm leading them this way away from tower, and it worked.
Yeah, you definitely split their attention there. I wonder how much, like, I've definitely used Crab in situations like that to sort of deflect them. I think the main thing is you were so far away from tower that if they just ignored you and went tower, it might not have had that much of an effect.
Okay.
So maybe like sponge or like on tower even at that point, or right perch. Like you had control of perch. Okay. The X-Blosher shots can overlook, and so a combination of that can.
Okay. Yeah. My plan was like, okay, if I go over here
Also,
and grab like kind of at the top of that ramp, then like I'll still have like a decent view of tower if they ignore me. But when I saw them start to go after me, I was like, okay, I can probably still keep their attention going this way.
Right. Also, only dying once is very nice on Tower Surgeon.
Oh yeah, that was on. Oh, that was Rage. Yeah, good job, Rage. Damn.
So we did that. I think I have time for like one or two more. So out of the Cephaloshock games and Blondie games. So Mako Zones, we've already talked about Flounder. So Scorch Clam, Rainmaker, Haggle.
Let me see which one of these. Those were one. Okay, let's see. Cephaloshock was Mako Zones was it was a generally good game. I feel like that one's more to see kind of like what we did good there. That one went pretty well. Flounder, Rainmaker, yeah, that one we probably don't need to go over again now. Clam, okay, the Clam Blitz one against Blonded, we barely won that. We were really kind of losing that entire game, and then it was like in the very last couple seconds that we won it. And then the fourth match with them on the Hagglefish Rainmaker, I can't remember exactly what happened with that one. That may have been the one where they had an E-leader, and we didn't have too much to deal with that range. I can't remember.
Haggle was the one where we were facing with an E-leader.
Gotcha. So yeah, either the Scorch Gorge Clam Blitz one or the Hagglefish Rainmaker one. I think those are both good candidates. The Clam Blitz one, I feel like was more of like a struggle, and I think we just really got like lucky at the end.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll put in the Scorch Gorge one first then.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, actually, you know, because generally I like Hagglefish as a map. Scorch Gorge is another map that I struggle with and don't really particularly like.
Yeah,
So
Scorch.
I think I'd rather see this one too.
Scorch is a map that's like, it always feels like you're very close to like being overextended on one side, but you also don't want to like be switching between the sides all the time because then you're almost never painting on one of the sides.
Yeah.
So
It's just like so much open space.
why Dapple here specifically? I'm just curious. That would be for Rage. Okay. Main thing with the comp is Dapple plus Roller is sometimes painful.
Yep.
Just because like, yeah.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned that earlier when we were like talking about comp differences for the flounder.
Oh yeah. Because like, okay, one thing to note here is B's trying to take top mid, which is fair enough. No one's really on right side or left side. I can understand like sort of ignoring one side for the other. It's partly range that's causing that struggle. Like you lose 1v1 to most of these weapons. It's also like half of your comp doesn't want to be seen, and then the junior doesn't want to be rushed alone. So it's very difficult to safely get paint here, and so they're just able to slowly get space.
Yeah, I think that's what we end up seeing a lot in this is us struggling to really move in.
Yeah, I want to talk about that Wavebreaker a little bit, or like just call something, because like you'll see it from Des, but the Wavebreaker is here. But notice that it only moves on the grades. It's not actually going into bottom mid. So, and it's also in a very visible spot. There's sort of like two blocks that extend out of the main pillar in mid on Scorch Gorge. That it's hard to look behind them. And that's sort of a good spot for a Waybreaker to go. So I'll see if the Blaster gets into position for that.
Height differences that thing does.
Okay. So like sort of in this positioning of the like the corner on the bottom left can be pretty good. Also, I just want to take a moment to appreciate this frame of the like fresh fish on the right.
That was the whole tournament Des was using that.
Yeah, but like that particular frame is just like so so haunting. Okay.
I think the eeriest part about that was the fact that the flag was still moving in the background despite everything else being frozen.
Oh yeah, that happens with this map. It's so odd. But yeah, so
Yeah, on eel tail, but on eel tail the water still moves when you like pause it, which is really funny to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, all maps with water, the water still moves as well.
Yeah, so Des was on the left side with the Blaster, sort of had to keep giving it space, and then just got rushed by it. Sort of just Rage was there as well, but sort of had to back up as well because Blaster, like vanilla Blaster, outranging it. And unlike a Splash-O-Matic, you don't really have anything to poke with, like a Burst Bomb. And so that was just unfortunate. Here B goes in a bit alone, gets a pick, but is going to get rushed very soon. Yep. I think that was either going in to try to help B or sort of seeing like a pick was gotten by B before they traded, and then rushing in with that. The main thing is you were already 2 down, and so going from 2 down to 3 down or a wipe, which a delayed wipe is what happened. It often makes like the opponent able to get full control of mid to like your clan basket. So we'll see them start to try to aggress here. Oh, they miss.
That was really lucky for us. Very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, the blast was also able to get 2 there. Rage is behind. Oh, okay. The beacon. Main thing there is timing. No one. I think like if everyone on the team knew that they were going to be flanking, and then waited just a little bit for the blaster before like aggressing it, that might have worked a bit better, if that makes sense. Like Dapple was only able to get a trade out of that, but if they had to focus on all 4 being alive, then yeah. Really good pick on the roller, or on the blaster by the roller. Okay. Just a quick note. It happens that all of them are far away from the place that you crabbed be, but you don't have any paint to ensure that like no one can just swim up the ledge and try to approach you. So I think this is still a good place to crab. Just I think before this, just making sure you paint up a little bit as splash before crabbing.
Okay.
Because it could have also helped
Gotcha.
Des and Rage move in a bit faster.
I think that's something also that I generally forget to do when I'm like going up to a perch to crab is like, and that should be a habit I should make, more, is like doing that painting up before I like pop it.
Yeah.
Right before you spray.
What is that?
I just said spray before you spray.
Yeah, essentially. Also, one thing to note here, B, you're focusing a lot on the blaster here. That was about like a third of your crab. 3 of them were on right side at
Could've just
first.
ignored them.
I think if you called them out like twice, like blaster left, blaster left, blaster left, while you held the crab on right, you could have had like one teammate go on left to make sure they don't like rush, and then everyone else just move on right to get space with the crab. Because right now, this crab has been out for 9 seconds. They've been away from right mid for 9 seconds. Right mid is still painted in their color.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's mostly like knowing where to push when there's a crab on top mid. On Scorch, it's like pushing out right side. For Clam specifically. Since yeah, now as soon as the crab goes out, they're just able to move right back there and then start contesting again. This is a fantastic bubble. I think that bubble was really good for like trying to pressure under when it was otherwise unsafe. The main thing is just like there were 3 people there, and I think as soon as you see like more than 2 people trying to focus on the bubble, from that positioning, I'd say back up, just because the bubble has the vulnerable top it's in range of even short range weapons when it's under a ledge, if that makes sense. And so they sort of just shredded that, and then so let's do that. Oh, okay. Never mind. they already had a side of you, and with this amount of weakness, I think like they had already seen you as the main thing. If they didn't see you before that, then I think that would have been a great place to bubble. But I think that was just done out of panic. Blaster gets splashed into 1v1, and then Dapple's sort of out of position since they took a lot of paint very quickly. Good backing up, Des. Holding Crab in disadvantage like this is very important, so just make sure you don't rush in. B and Des, that was unfortunate. And then Rage. And then, okay. And then Yoshi went in trying to help Rage, but it was still a 2v4 and then a 1v4 by the time that Ash actually got to that point.
Yeah, full staggering there.
Yeah. And here again, it's a trade, which trades in this sense don't help that much, especially since Crab could flush them completely out of the place.
Yeah, I think that was all the time. So, like, trade essentially keeps things the way they were.
Yeah, essentially. I think, like, the Weight Breaker was really good. Helped make that push of theirs not as, effective as it could have been. Des is up front on left. Alone. Rage is painting far right. Because Des and Rage are so separated, Rage can't really help if Door gets rushed, and so he kind of has to back up. This means that Rage will soon be without paint. And you somehow get the pick anyways. Okay. But yeah, I think, like, even as, like, a Roller or Dapple, just being near a junior to help it, like, get space up front can be very helpful for it. Because otherwise it might not be able to aggress, being afraid of, like, a Blaster or Gal that 1v1s it really well. I think the Crab from B was just punished by the Blaster. Again, it was like not having full control of a round mid, and then it goes up the wall and picks you off.
Yeah.
Really good pick on the Blaster here. That's a Crab. Okay, I think B was in mid, saw everyone else to the right of her, and thought, I'm going to push up with him to help. Rage and Des saw the Crab and said, we're backing up from this. So the team made two different decisions, and half the team was picked off because of it. I think, especially with super jumps, it's very risky to even jump that far in, and especially, like, moving up afterwards, because you have a very little time to actually assess the situation and see, is this safe to push up? So sometimes it can be good to just, like, back up for a little bit of time and see if, like, things are actually okay. This is specifically when super jumping in general, hesitation isn't something I would recommend, but at the very least, like, holding an area when jumping in is, it can be risky if it's in a place that's so forward that, like, they can pressure you pretty easily if they see through the self jump. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
I really like the positioning of the Roller on top mid if there's someone trying to contest it. Because, yeah, you just win those fights very easily. Blaster is so painful. Okay, that was a team fight. What happened there? Okay, so there's a Wavebreaker, Torpedo. So situationally, B just got a bit too far up. Focus on dealing with a Wavebreaker, and then gets picked off here.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. I think in general, if they have paint around a Wavebreaker, it's very unsafe to like actually deal with it. Because usually when there's a Wavebreaker, there's a junior sort of close to it, charging its next one.
Okay. I get that's again my issue is kind of like not really painting with the splash first before like deciding on something like that.
Yeah. Or at the very least, just like hitting it a little bit and then backing up or like painting around.
Okay.
Just to make sure like junior can't rush, like it doesn't outrange you. So like you can still take that risk to deal with it a little bit. But tunnel visioning the Wavebreaker is a recipe for the junior recognizing, okay, they're focused on something other than me. I'm going to punish them for that.
Yeah. A bit of an overcommitment.
Yeah. I'm seeing Rage go on the sides a lot, while like teammates have pretty much control of like that side of mid. I guess I just wonder like Dapple's really good being in like a more forward position than the enemy expects. But I haven't really seen like that many circumstances where like Rage is actually able to use the like DPS of the Dapple. That was a good pick. I think like half the team was focused on behind, half the team was up front. Yoshi just went really far in there. I think, especially when you had 6 clans, I don't know if that was worth it. Because, one, it's a flat area, so Ruler might not do as well. And also, yeah, I know you just bubbled, but like maybe having bubble and then staying around the actual clan basket itself can sometimes be helpful. Also, one thing to note, B is being very passive here on left side, probably waiting for a super jump.
Yeah, I had like respawned and I was gonna grab the pity clam to super jump to Ash and Rage, but then Ash went far and got picked, and then Rage was alone and then got picked too. So I was just like,
Yeah.
well, I gotta let me start painting.
Fair, fair. Ash is spending a lot of time here behind mid, and during this time they can't really like paint up, and they're sort of like essentially there are 3 people on mid right now. Rage goes in a bit too far, without like a teammate pressuring an opponent, and so they get picked off for that. Because it wasn't really a flank, it's just like the left side of mid, which is probably going to be watched by someone. Another crab in top mid without having much control of around mid. Good pick on the person behind though.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I mean by like we generally were doing pretty rough that whole match, and then it was like the last 5-10 seconds.
Yeah, I guess It feels like their aggression was very sparse. Like they didn't take advantage of their picks much at all.
Mm.
At the same time, though, you all were able to get a lot of good picks on them when they pushed in. I think at least twice they tried it, and they didn't get much more than a single power clam.
Okay.
So the defense was pretty good. Just punishing them for overextending. I think just in certain points of the game there were like I guess with Ruler plus Dapple, it's hard to get the range that you want, and it's hard to get the like forward pressure that you want, even if someone's like known to be in a place.
Mm.
And on Scorch, because the map is sort of separated into, you need to look at left and right, and occasionally top as well. Having only one like weapon that can afford to be seen alone, the splash. The junior generally is seen but with someone else, and then the other two are sharking weapons. It's just very difficult to deal with anything that outranges you, like a blaster.
Yeah.
So in that case, would you suggest having the splat sculptures over dapples?
I think-
Probably would have been a better choice.
I think
Or even a charger.
Squelchers or Splatolies. Charger over which weapon?
I'd say I don't really know, but I know
I
that
feel
some
like from the rest of the tournament we played, I feel like you do better with like I think your squelchers like have a spot on our comp for sure when we're building our comp better. We only really kind of saw it in like that Flounder Heights one. But I think overall like your splat dualies work, and I do like when a lot of times we were doing the custom junior, the splash, the splat dualies, and the roller for like very aggressive comps, and I did like that. That worked really well for us for like maps for some certain map modes.
Yeah, it did work a lot better than Dapples.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were running for like most of. I feel like the like I feel like semifinals and finals of the Emerald bracket. I feel like we ran that comp the most, and it worked very well for us.
I'm so sorry. Could you recount which comp it was?
Yes, it was a splat roller, splat dualies, splash, and custom junior.
That comp seems pretty good, yeah. You have support for the roller, range with burst bombs and crab, and yeah, pretty good. I think the main thing is just like Dapple plus roller, they sort of take each other's, they compound on each other's weaknesses. They have like a sort of difference in how they're played, but like neither of them want to be seen, and so it sort of leaves the people who are fine with being seen in a 2v4 paint, and that's sort of eh. Also, I just want to talk about the beauty of disconnecting while I'm VOD reviewing.
Wait, is that what happened?
Yeah.
That's
How does
exactly
that-
what happened. I didn't even know that was something that could happen, but that's what happened. Also, I'm really appreciating that the squids
Yeah,
part of like the stock puppet.
Yeah, I
It's so good.
Love that. Love that.
But yeah, so actually Ash was playing ruler, right? What's your weapon pool? Like,
Literally just roller tri-stringer with
Okay.
a little bit of 10 attack.
okay. I think
Defense attack's not bad.
Dapple has like, you can make some comps around Dapple. Roller is in none of them. Unfortunately. I guess I'm saying like because they just have so many weaknesses as a pair. let's see. I think like in Rainmaker, Dabble is definitely its strongest mode because Tactical is just probably best in Rainmaker. If you want like Dabble Tri-Stringer, the main thing with that is like, I'd say having like weapons that, like a splash that can paint and also be aggro, and then have another aggro so that you can like work with the Dabble's Tacticaler. If you have a like Dabble's Tri-Stringer Junior, then it puts too much pressure on the splash. So something like I don't know what the other members of your team play, but or I don't recall that well. I am so sorry.
No, it's okay. I play Splash, Tend to Tech, Splatter Shot, and Zap. If we want to just like go down the line, narrow. If you want to like say what you play next.
Okay. I play Sloshing Machine, Splosher. I also play a bit of the Zinni. I think that's like most of like the free weapons that I'll bring out. Occasionally, I know I've definitely brought out the Reflux in when we did Low Ink
Okay.
for like one match.
I feel like those first three though are generally what like we see you playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Rage.
Oh yep. Keep
Oh,
going.
sorry.
Okay.
I mostly play. No, I play like rollers, like well not all rollers, but I play like these Dabble dualies. I'm starting to dip into more other chargers instead of just Swiffer and Cloud Charger. So I'm becoming more versatile in that. So it's yeah. I don't know. I'm not good in the spotlight.
Oh, you're okay.
You're okay.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
That's usually what we see Rage play a lot in our comps is like the Splat Dualies, the Squelchers, the Dabbles. Rage has brought out the Swiffer sometimes, which has been really neat.
Okay.
And like flings a here and there, but yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
sometimes I also bring out the Tri-Stringer, but I think we'll mostly see Ash play the Tri-Stringer more than me and our team so far.
Okay.
I think this is kind of a bit off topic, but I think eventually want to bring a knee leader to the comp. If
I think the main.
I think.
Go on.
Sorry, you go first.
Okay. I think like one of the main things I'm hearing is like, from like most people here, I'm hearing at least one like anchor weapon. So like X-Flosher, Tri-Stringer, are the main ones. But like, I think like the more people you have playing more roles, that's like, that's creating many more combinations of like what you can be playing with everyone else. And so for each given like team comp, you'll have a bit less experience with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So like
I agree.
switching between like a T-Tech and Splash and Zap isn't that much of a switch, honestly, because like mechanically they're about the same, they position around the same way. Their specials are the main thing you play around, and their subs. But say Sloshing Machine versus Explosher. First, the I guess I'm not saying like it's time to drop weapons, y'all, or anything like that. Like playing a variety of weapons is very fair. But I do think it's just something to keep in mind that like the more like roles that you play on a team, the more like the more comps that can be created with it, but the less experience you'll have with each of them. And so like there's some like playing around a Carbon is very different than playing around like a Brush, and playing around like no backline is very different than an X-Flow is different than an E-Leader, especially an E-Leader. So
I can.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna chip in for a second here. Yeah, because like I totally understand that, and like in my case, I can play a variety of weapons. But when I'm playing with you guys, I'll probably just do custom junior because one, cancer, and two, that's easy to work around. You know.
It also like fits with a lot of like the weapons we do play because of that like painting support for it.
So yeah, like I'm not really gonna think about trying other weapons with you guys because that works good enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That is also something I mentioned after like very recently too, because I was noticing when I was like going over all the replays with Narrow is like when we had started to run that Splat Dually Splash CJR and Splat Roller all together, like it was working really well for us. And so I was like, okay, well, we need to start focusing on like I want everyone to play the weapon that they're having fun with and to like, you know, try what they want to try. But we have to start thinking about what kind of comps and like weapons and roles we want to all be focusing on together. And like figuring that out.
I think it's also like there can be like some like, say the person who plays like ruler and tri-stringer, if you want to decide like you always play tri-stringer, if like Dapple is playing Dapple, or like if the Dapple player just plays like dualies, squelchers, and god dang it, I forgot the last one. With the ruler. Then that's fair. And like I guess like say you have 5 members, with them you play like not the roller Dapple combination, without them you play just that weapon. That can work. But again, that's like more weapons that you'll have to learn for like well, more weapons and more like positioning around teammates, because like I've noticed sometimes when like a team is full of flexes, especially in lower level, you can talk about like every single game can have completely different things spoken about between each game. And I think because of that, it can be a lot slower to see growth, because they're growing in a lot of different directions at once with like different weapon pools.
Gotcha.
It can also lead to crippling indecision, like how you get a bunch of flex players doing open and no one can agree on what to play.
For instance, my looting team. There's always
yeah.
We eventually decided like there were 2 players who are like truly heavy players in their hearts, but can't flex some more aggro weapons. We just decided, okay, one of you is going to be playing Splatlinks, the other one's playing aggro, and yeah, we sort of moved on from there. But yeah, I think most of the comps that you all were. Oh, what is it?
I said I love indecisiveness.
Yeah. Most of the comps that.
For real?
Yeah. Most comps were pretty good. So it's mostly just like roller Dapple I like complaining about, because if I ever see that combination, I'm generally just like, they have no paint, just paint, space them out, and use your range. And unless like, if it's like an even skill, then just like having that playstyle generally lends to us like winning over them, because like that's a huge weakness in a comp.
Yeah, I agree. I think.
Yeah, I think
So
yeah.
that's something we definitely.
That was honestly like something that I have like in my plans for us to like talk about tomorrow for our practice before we scrim with Refresh, is to really like sit down and like, you know, maybe pull up some example map modes, maybe whatever is like on open at that time, but like really sit down and like start discussing like what do we want to put together here for like a comp, and like is this something that we want to play more often, and like really going on the ins and outs of like weaknesses, synergy, and things like that. Because we've done a little bit about that before, but I think like we've only recently started to fall more into a groove of how to like pull that together. But especially now that we have taken on like 2 more members, Des and Marcy, we kind of have to go through that process again. Which actually, on that note, Echo, I did want to ask your opinion. One of our new members, Marcy, plays a really good Splatana. Also plays like Splatlings, and is thinking about like learning Blaster. What like for a Splatana Stamper, like what are some things that pair well with that? Because I'm not really
Stamper.
familiar with that weapon.
Okay, I think of Stamper generally as like a more aggressive rapid in some senses. It paints pretty
Okay.
decently. Its Zipcaster is really good at like distracting the opponent while like everyone else moves in from the front aggressively. So as far as like everyone else's weapons in the comp, Machine does pretty well with it. Splash does really well with it. Most aggro shooters do really well with it.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't know how it does with Roller or Dapple, honestly. You'll have to try that.
Okay.
It feels like it will be like okay, but not fantastic with Squelchers. There will probably be some times where they're sort of vying for each other's spot on the map.
Mhm. What about with Brush? Because Sid plays Brush.
Interesting.
I feel like it might be an iffy situation.
Yeah, I think it's similar
Because
to
like
like
Brush likes to skirmish and flank, but like if Stamper's using Zipcaster, that's almost like kind of taking Brush's role there.
sort of, but not exactly. Like,
I could kind of see it working, but I think if it was to be paired with a brush, I think I would prefer the Wiper to be paired with the brush, just because it's got that bit more of a pain output. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, Wiper has a completely different set of weapons that work well with it than
Okay.
Stamper. Wiper is
Also
honestly
fat.
like Wiper's like a Tetra with a torpedo.
Yeah.
I think Marcy plays Viper too.
Okay. With Wiper, it's like Machine still does well. Short range shooters do well. I think Brush would do better with it. I think like one team that I am like friends with, they have a Wiper Brush pairing with like a CDS
Okay.
and Zap. I think's the last one. They sometimes play Splash as well. So like
Okay.
that's one potential thing.
I'm kind of interested in trying that actually. That sounds kind of fun.
That sounds like an interesting comp.
Yeah.
Fair. As far as Blaster goes, it takes fights more than Roller or Dapple, but it also cannot paint for its life. So,
Yeah.
that would be difficult to work with.
Okay. Then
Just-
maybe we don't need a Maybe we don't need to ask Marcy to learn Blaster then.
Well, I mean, the thing is with Blaster is that depending on what Blaster it is, not a lot of people know how to fight against Blaster. Like a range Blaster.
Generally, once you get to like low ink beta bracket to alpha bracket level, they'll start to know like at least the general how to play against it. So, like the higher level you go, the less of a matchup check each weapon is. And so I generally just like play weapons that work well for a comp, so that it's more sustainable for your growth, if that makes sense.
All right.
Mhm.
It's sort of like learning a young Link if someone doesn't know the matchup at all in Smash, and then suddenly people know how to use their shield button when you spam them with
I
projectiles.
understand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, there will reach a point where matchups don't matter as much. It'll come down to more like, okay, how do we handle this? But
Little
it's
Mac
still always
Kirby.
going to matter.
Okay.
I still think
this is
having
really
a
cool.
blaster just as an option for us could like work. It's just we need to like build more of a comp around it, so having more like everyone else painting a more like playing a more painty weapon.
Yeah, because I know that's usually like on that topic for like painty weapons. I notice a lot, especially like more in the past, but I notice a lot of the times when we start performing like not as well is when we're like panicking because we don't have like turf control, and when we have a comp running that puts a lot of pressure on like, you know, 1 or 2 people to really be like always painting, like for me playing Splash especially, like it can do a lot, it paints a lot, but if I have to start focusing on like just painting, we kind of lose a lot of the aggression from the Splash and from like me usually playing like a slaying role. So I think having more painty weapons, and I feel like that is something I'd want more.
Yeah, I think like
Yes, thank you. Yes.
generally having more than like 1 or 2 weapons that are paint negative, as it's called. So like that is not really able to paint for themselves. Paint positive will be something like a Splash-O-Matic, where it paints for itself and maybe something else occasionally. Junior is very paint positive. In theory, something like Brush is paint neutral because it can paint for itself. Well, in theory, it can like be somewhat paint positive because it does have high paint output. In practice, it's more like paint neutral because it doesn't want to paint often, but it does enough for itself where it doesn't need that paint.
Okay.
It can still survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like if you have a Brush with a blaster and that's your whole comp, everything else is like neutral paint, then you're probably going to struggle a little bit with paint, especially against like comps that have more paint, so like 3 shooters or something like that. Something like Machine, it paints well for itself, but it can't really paint for itself in something else. So it's pretty much the definition of something that's paint neutral. When comp building, you generally want to make sure like you don't have too many weapons that are like wanting to shark or like can't paint that much for themselves. Because there's not a such thing as too much paint. There is such a thing as too little aggression, which sometimes comes with that. Like if you have 4 arrow sprays, yeah, you got the map painted, but how are you going to push in?
Booyah bombs.
Sure. But yeah, so making comps with 6 people is
I know
also
what you mean by that.
Yeah, making comps with 6 people is also a bit more intricate. Just because like there's never going to be like hold on.
Actually 7.
Oh, it's 7. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something like at least 20 different combinations, I think, of people. Maybe.
Probably. That's why something I'm.
It is 35.
Like
35 different comps.
I have like.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Like on only certain map modes, and it's usually Rainmaker. And then for Tentatek, I play Tentatek even less. That's usually like for Flounder Heights or something like that, and like on a Splat Zombies. But generally, for the most part, it's like I'm mostly playing Splash all the time. Like Splash is generally playing Roller like most of the time, unless like we need like a little backline or like for instance, like on Museum Rainmaker, Ash usually plays Tri-Stringer instead of Roller. But like on Hagglefish Rainmaker, Ash will play like Roller. So I think something that like is going to be helpful for us and for having 7 people and something that I'm going to go through as a team together at our practice tomorrow is like going through modes like first in just a general sense and like working with that. What are the weapons these people, like everyone likes to play on these modes, because that's going to help narrow it down so we have a better idea of when to pair who with who on which map.
I think also
say,
okay. One of the benefits of having like 6 members or so is like you have enough players so that like you can practice more and have like random groups of 4 essentially. Just
Okay.
whoever's on at the moment. The main disadvantage of having like I'd say 6 to 7 members is there are so many people that you're playing with in each practice that like you could generally get on for one practice with the same 2 practices with the same team, but aside from you, the people are completely different, and so
Yeah.
it can sometimes be a bit weak in that regard.
Okay.
So like there's still a balance to keep in mind with like I guess whoever's schedules don't align that much, maybe try not to even put on for tournaments, even if their weapons in theory work together. Just because they don't have
Okay.
as much experience playing with each other and like scrims and such.
Gotcha.
Aside from that, like there's still definitely like possibility of like getting better as like a larger group. I mean, things like pickup servers exist where like people don't have a team, but they learn how to play around like a general group of people.
Okay.
Actually, are any of you in Launch Point Draft Cup? Or any of you in Launch Point?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No.
It's not a thing that's like required or anything. It's just something that I thought of that might be interesting if like any of you want to like practice and like no one else is on for even like open. It's essentially you can get onto a group of like 4 people and like essentially a pickup scrim, and it's a best of 7 against another group of 4 that's made like that. If that makes
Ooh,
sense.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
So I'm
I'll definitely probably
do
take
like
a look
that.
at that one just because being the only Australian in a group of
Yeah.
mainly Americans.
yeah,
Sorry.
region
It's okay.
differences do be pain.
It do be like that.
Did you send
I
me a
know.
link to that, Echo?
What is it? What does?
I was asking if you send me like or place a link somewhere for that.
I will try to find it as soon as possible, but it's somehow linked with like MIT. This is not like Massachusetts. This is Mulloway Institute of Turfing.
Oh, okay.
that
I think
it-
I've. Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
I've
Yeah.
been that server, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's,
forgot- Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about Launch Point.
Okay, it's in. Is it in that server?
Yeah.
Okay, I know Launch Point Draft Cup is in there, but not about like Launch Point itself.
Because I'm only
Oh,
in
okay.
freshwater, and I haven't really gotten the chance to like do freshwater.
Okay.
I may take a look at that because that just sounds really funny. If nothing else, it's like, hi, here to practice. I use Custom Junior. You have to look at this for the whole tournament now.
Yeah. One thing I will mention, it's not a thing much, if at all, with Launch Point, but it is like a larger group of people who play comp Splatoon, and so sometimes you can get people who are like Splatoon experience. So, if nothing else, like it's just 7 games. It can be like, well, 4 games if you like go 4-0 or 0-4. So, and that's not something that's happened often. I've never been in Launch Point, and I've only heard of like, they're generally really good about making sure like the people that are in there are like good. Generally, the higher level you get, the weirder it gets, or like the more of a lottery system it is. But
Okay.
that's like servers other than Launch Point. Launch Point is specifically designed for like low income below, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
that's around.
yeah, I think it can be definitely helpful for like quickly learning, or like learning how to play around new comps that you otherwise haven't played around. Maybe testing new things out. or even just doing practice where like you think that solo is a bit too limiting for like what you want to practice, or you don't have anyone to play open with. I think the server is also pretty good for just like pinging for like +1s. So if you want to use it for that, go for it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
That's helpful, thank you.
Of course. Is there anything else that any of you wanted to like ask essentially?
I think that's
I was gonna bring it up
anything
earlier,
else?
but I kind of forgot about it. When it comes to like using Wavebreaker like more defensively, what would you like? I guess just general tips on how to like use it in a more defensive manner.
Okay. For Sadius or Junior?
Probably more specifically Custom Junior, because that's usually the one that I play
Okay.
with Wavebreaker so far, at least in the team.
Okay. Is there a map specifically, or just generally? I can like find a random map.
Just generally. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I've come across map specific stuff yet, but probably
Okay.
eventually in the future.
So Waybreaker is definitely something that's better for aggression than defense. But I sort of visualize it like you know how Crab has like a range where like it's sort of a death laser, and if someone gets in that on defense,
Stinger.
like if someone tries to aggress that, then like they're going to get sort of impaled. So that's sort of like a radius of effect for Crab Tank that lets it like sit in a place and it lets it like sit in a place like your side of bridge on this map, and just pressure the opponent from actually moving in. So I think Wavebreaker has a similar thing of like if they're pushing like your clan basket and you place it here, then like anyone who tries to aggress you from here will have to also deal with that Wavebreaker.
Right.
And so if they have to deal with a Wavebreaker and you throwing torpedoes at them, that's a lot of things that are on their awareness that they have to keep track of essentially. And so it can make it a lot harder for them to move in without taking a bit of chip damage. As a junior, you're probably not going to be the one actually taking fights with this, or you're not going to be taking fights alone with this because their teammates are around as well. So I guess it's sort of an idea of aggressing out of defense. So like, say can I get another one just from here? Close. Alright. So like, say you're on disadvantage on Neotail and they're coming from here, they're on this part of bridge, and you want them out of there. So you can wave break behind the bubble so they can't really deal with it as well. And then you dropping down with your teammates. Once you have a special out, that sort of the special aggresses them in a way that's like, I see the wave breaker and two of them aggressing me. I'm either going to be like just here poking at them, or just moving back in mid, because like that's very unsafe. That's the main thing that I would say. Like, Wavebreaker on defense is still a pretty aggressive thing, just because it takes new space. It doesn't hold space that well. Like, it holds space okay, but like, if you really want to hold space with Junior, use the Bubbler one.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's fair enough.
But like, Bubbler is also just kind of... Bubbler is a bit worse on defense than Wavebreaker, because Wave is very encouraging for you to push out of your current area, and pushing out lets you get out of disadvantage into a neutral state. Bubbler encourages you to like, okay, I'm safe in disadvantage. Now what? If I move in front of the bubble, then the bubble's effect is practically neutered. So like, you can't do that much other than just like throw bombs and like punish people for going into you.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps answer your question.
Yeah, that does.
Okay.
Because I know I certainly need to like learn more aggressive spot for the wave breaker, but I was just wondering if there's still like defensive applications for.
Okay.
Yeah.
The main thing with Waybreaker is like putting it behind cover is really good. Just because but also like if you put it where your teammates are like sort of protecting it as well, it can be good. Though that's more for a neutral and advantage state scenario. One other thing to note is with Waybreaker and Junior in general in defense, if you move, like if you drop out of spawn alone and like try to aggress the opponent alone, all I can tell you is good flipping luck. Yeah, it's really just a matter of like choosing your fights and throwing Waybreaker when your teammates are alive and when you're alive. As Junior, I think it's like a weapon that doesn't take as much human RAM to like keep track of like everything that you're doing. Some weapons like Splatana have so much movement tech with them and like stuff you're doing to stay alive, or Tetra, or even Slayer weapons when like you're in a fight, that sometimes it can be harder to stay aware of things. But I think especially at lower level, you probably see weapons like E-Leader and Junior, weapons that sort of stay back and paint and get control and stay in a place. Like they have a bit more leeway to like glance at the top of the map to see like who's alive, who has special. So sometimes it can fall on you a bit more to like make calls like, I'm popping wave, let's go right, or let's move in with your bubble or something like that. So like there's some things like shot calling like that. Shot calling's a completely different conversation. But I guess like just make sure like you have enough people alive, at least like an even man-to-man thing. Like, don't try to push him with Waybreaker if it's a 2v4, for example. But yeah, and make sure like there's at least someone with you that's ready to push in the direction that your Waybreaker is like providing space for.
There's definitely good examples of that in like some of the replays we watched that we didn't send. I remember specifically in the tournament, like some of the matches where we performed well in, whenever Jess would throw out a wave breaker and it was like kind of neutral or something, you know, everyone was there. I made sure to call it out too, like push up with wave breaker, and I would like go in. And that usually worked out very well for us. So there's only like examples of us doing that, but it's good to like think about like better, like behind covers, like better spots to put it.
Yeah, definitely. So like if you put it in a place where like all enemies can like shoot at it, then it's not going to be there for a while. But putting it behind cover sometimes like can make it have like a bit of a lessened effect of its area. So sometimes a good middle ground is like putting it in a place that's like sort of behind where your teammates are going to be like very soon, just so that like it's forward enough so it lets them push in a lot, but it's also like far back enough so that like if someone tries to use their range to fight it, then your teammate's there to like help defend the wave breaker essentially.
Gotcha.
And then of course you can sometimes like out of anywhere, I think this is the best spot in the hotel to put it. It does absolutely nothing for you because they generally drop out of spawn, but I swear it's the best spot. Yeah, that's probably what I'd say. I hope all that helps.
So much.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very, very helpful.
Very helpful.
Okay.
Will you be uploading this VOD for us to like have a link of as well?
Yep, that's the plan.
Okay. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So like I think the main things that are like very actionable for y'all to work with are like so like when using specials, having a sort of trying to call like which areas you want to push in with them. And making sure you have like areas painted before you move up. Those are the two main things. And also, if you feel like you're getting pushed back, this is just an aside, but like sometimes it's helped me to say like I need help on left, even if I'm not getting actively fought, just so that like I can actually hold an area. That might be most helpful for like the junior, to call out like someone help me on left or something like that. Just since like the weapon itself can't really win 1v1s, but it can definitely help out a lot in 2v1s. That's really its strength.
I think that's something. Yeah, that's definitely very good to keep in mind too. For I mean, like a lot of the weapons that other folks on the team play that may be struggling. Like for Sid's brush, like that gets outranged by a lot. Like I think like asking for help is a call out that we don't really use much, and that we would get a lot of use out of.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard one to use as well, because like if you get everyone on the team saying like I need help left, I need help right, I need help in our base, I need help up front, like you get situations where like okay, but like who yeah, so like it definitely takes like it can help bring a team that's like sorta in sync with each other to being very in sync with each other. But it's sort of like if they're not like if the team's sort of already separated, then it can sometimes be like it can sometimes show like we're separated if two people say that at around the same time. But yeah, it definitely helps a lot with like so I think those are the main things, just which areas you want to take with special, calling for help maybe, and painting before you like making sure like areas that are like in front of objective are painted.
Gotcha.
And also making sure like in front of you is painted for crap. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing all this. Like really beneficial. Especially like when you had coached us last time, that like helped us improve so much. Obviously didn't want to waste your time with like all like too many replays or whatever, but like aside from like these matches that we lost, like we kind of really plowed through like semifinals and finals. Like we went 3-0 and then 4-0, and finals like every game was like a sweep knockout.
Very nice to hear. I'm glad.
Yeah, and I literally don't think we could have done that without like your help.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope this this will help as well. But
I think definitely.
okay. If you have like any other replays that you want to look at, if any of you do like solo and want me to like look over something, let me know. Or something like that.
Would it be
or
okay
just as a
to
team.
like hit you up for general coaching advice, because like I feel like it's something that I'm interested in, and I kind of need a bit of an idea of like what to look for when it comes to like looking over replays. Is that something you can also do for us, or
So coaching about coaching and
yeah, coaching about coaching?
Nero is good at watching replays, I think, better than I am, so that would be cool.
Okay, I think I've like
Like just generally listening to you go over our replays has been helpful, but like also just like having
yeah, so like
more
getting
specific
getting the idea of like
yeah.
the patterns that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, I could definitely do that. I generally have two main modes of doing coaching. So like if it's solo or like just one person that needs help in a team, I generally look at it just through their perspective. And then if it's a team thing, then it's sort of like what I did here.
Yeah.
I honestly like some parts of it just come from like experience. Like I've played this game for many years, and like even competitively for like 4 or 5 years. So it's like some things are sort
It
of
just
hard.
comes with time, kind of thing.
Yeah, so like some things definitely come with time and experience. Like the more you play the game, the more you see like, oh, I dropped without paint. Whoops. And then slowly you recognize that in other people's gameplay as well. I think also like watching your own gameplay and just thinking about like when you die, why you died, essentially. Um and like whether like the risk you took was worth it is sometimes a thing.
Gotcha.
But like that's sort of how I'd start out. But we can definitely talk about this more. I'm just like scratching the surface with like no other replays or anything right now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If anything else, you might also find value in like watching other people on stream. So like
Yeah, that's what I have been doing as well. Just if I find time to like either watch the VOD of the tournaments or just when it's live, I'll try to like catch those, see how the commentators are like going about it. I know sometimes I've been watching Percara and Gem like do their own kind of like VOD reviews. So I've been like occasionally watching them as well.
yeah, I need to watch them doing VOD reviews honestly, because I haven't, and I think there's some stuff I can learn from them.
We can learn together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'll put that here. But yeah. So I think I've said everything that I think I'm able to right now.
Mm. Yeah, I think I don't want to like overload everyone too because I think we've been at it for let's see, almost 3 hours.
Yeah, we're 10 minutes
which-
to 3 hours.
Yeah, so like I also don't want to like take too much of your time here, but I also personally need to use the bathroom and eat dinner. But I think like having this recorded and everything, and with a lot of us being in attendance for it too. Even Sid like kind of came in the room near like the latter like last hour. I think all of us being here as well is really gonna help kind of like keep this in our minds more and like especially when we go and rewatch everything again, it's something we'll be able to put into practice, you know, soon. And yeah, I think definitely a huge help. Like it put a lot more things in my mind that I hadn't previously thought about, or at least as in depth. So
Okay.
really appreciate it, Echo.
Glad to hear. Anytime. Yeah, I'm going to probably stop the stream. So if you want to find me for
All
your
right.
if you want to find me on Twitch, you're right here. But story underscore echo if you're watching the VOD on YouTube. Story echo underscore if it's on Twitter, and if you want to look at my or if you want to get in touch with me for coaching yourself, you can contact me through my Twitter or through Discord at echo hashtag 7956. Thanks. And GG's. I'll find someone to read.